Hey, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about an experience I had at the grocery store just before thanks, not no, just before Halloween, just before Halloween, and I was getting some cat food on the cat food aisle, and there was a woman there that was also getting some cat food that was a few feet away from me. And anyway, I just turned to her and I says, "Oh, there's another cat lover on the aisle here." And she turned around, and I'm not kidding you. I swear to God that she looked like a witch. She really did. I've never in my life seen such an ugly woman. She actually, honestly, she looked like a witch, but she didn't have any makeup on. She wasn't in costume. That's just the way she was. She looked like she was the ugliest woman that I think I've ever seen in my entire life. She had a great big long point. Seriously, I swear to God. I don't swear to God unless I mean it. I love God. Uh, and when I swear to God, I damn well mean it. But she had a long, big, a long nose, and she had a wart, a great big wart. It's a huge wart on the tip of her nose, just slightly on the side of her, center of her nose. Great big huge wart. She had several teeth missing. So when she talked, you could notice that her teeth, some of her teeth were gone. So here she was, this ugly, I'm not kidding you, this ugly woman. You think about a witch like in the movie Snow White, and that was almost her. I'm not kidding you. She was so ugly with her part of her teeth missing and a great big pointed nose and the great big wart on the side of her nose. I can't remember what other features she had, but she looked, I'm not kidding you, she looked like a witch. But but I talked to her and I didn't want to stare at her or to just say, "Oh, and this, just go on about my business." I started the conversation and then about cats, at being a cat lover. So I had a choice of either just ignoring her, going back to my business of seeing which cans of cat food I was going to buy, or just to be nice to her. And I chose to be nice. I chose to be nice to her. Why? Because that was a thing to do. I can't help it that she looked like a witch. She knew she looked like a witch. She, she would, I'm not kidding you. She would have scared the living crap out of kids. Man, why? If she would have answered the door at her home on Halloween, the kids would have gone back to the parents and said, "Mom, I saw a real live witch." But anyway, so I talked to her and I didn't stare at her teeth missing, or I didn't stare at her big, huge wart on the end of her nose, or how big her nose was. And I didn't want to make her feel uncomfortable that I knew she was ugly. She already knew that. But anyway, I talked to her, had a normal conversation, and I was as tried to be as nice and polite and pleasant as I could possibly be. Uh, and she responded. She was nice and had a few little laughs, about cats and different things. And I told her, I said, well, you have a nice day. Thanks for taking time to talk to me. And she was nice to me. And even though she was ugly and looked like a witch, I swear to God, she was one of the ugliest women I've ever seen in my entire life. And she looked, I'm not kidding you. How many people look like a witch? How many women do you know out there that really look like the witch in, The Wizard of Oz or Snow White, Yeah, that was the show I was trying to think of, The Wizard of Oz. I'm not kidding you. The only thing that was missing was a great big crystal ball and a broomstick. I'm not kidding you. She could have left the store, got the broom on the side of the store, and then taken off on her broom. Anyway, but she was nice, and I treated her like a human being, as if she wasn't a witch. I treated her like a daughter of God. She can't help it if she was ugly. I mean, maybe she probably, obviously, she didn't have the money to get the flippin' wart taken off of her nose. She knew people were looking at it. She knew kids were giggling about it. She probably didn't have the money to take the wart off of her nose. If I was a rich man, I would have paid to have her take the wart off. But how do you do that? If I had $1,500 in my pocket, and how would you go about saying that to somebody? Say, oh, I don't want to embarrass you, but I thought that if I was to give you some money, and maybe you don't want to, but if I was to give you the money, would you like to get the wart taken off your nose? I mean, how do you say that to somebody without embarrassing them, I didn't have the money to do it, but if I had the money, I would have gladly have done it. We could have flew in the surgeon's office, plastic surgeon's office together, or the dermatologist's office together on her broom. Sure, she had a big broom. And we could have taken care of business. She could have got the wart off of her nose. We could have flown over to the beauty salon, the hair salon, and had her hair done. I think she had kind of, scraggly hair. I mean, she really looked like a witch. But how do you say that to somebody, Anyway, I just treated her with kindness. And then to top it off, I told her that I appreciated her time and it was nice to talk to her. And I meant it. I didn't say that just to make her feel good. I said part of it to make her feel good, but I meant it. It was nice of her to be kind and to talk to me. But anyway, I thought, man, I've never in my life seen such a woman like that. And I'm sure she had the inferiority complex a mile high or a mile wide or both. And it'd be interesting to know how she dealt with it. How do you deal with something like that, knowing that you look like a witch? Seriously. And I don't mean the good witch of the West or the East. I mean an ugly witch. How do you deal with that? Do you drink yourself silly at night? Do you take drugs? What do you do? I don't know. But you'd have to feel sorry. If you looked at her, I feel sorry for her. I mean, how do you deal with something like that, Anyway, getting off on a different subject. Years ago, before I had my heart attack, I had a woman. I'll back up for a minute. There was a girl that I knew in high school that was one of the cutest. I've talked about this, some of this in other videos. But anyway, I'll try to narrow it down for you. there was a girl in high school that was one of the cutest girls in the whole school. I mean, she was an absolute doll. I took her out after school, or not after school, but after I graduated. She went to a college near my home. Not near my home, it was about 50 miles away from my home. But anyway, I dated her a few times. Went down to her dorm, and we went out, to a show and dinner and different things. She was just a doll. Then I went on a mission and just kind of lost contact with her. A mission? What's a mission? A mission for my church. Anyway, years ago, several years ago, I was just curious what had happened to her. So I looked up on my high school website at my graduating class of 67. That shows you how old I am. And there she was. She'd signed up, for people to contact her, whatever. So I emailed her a message, sent her an email. And anyway, long story short, we met up. She'd been married and divorced, and I have been too. But I'm not kidding you. She was so ugly and fat. I mean, life hadn't been good to her physically. She was such a doll in high school. And then I meet her, 50 years later, and she's a pig. She was so fat and ugly and dumb. And she was nice to me. And I knew she was lonely. And so I started taking her out. I didn't want to, but I just wanted to be nice to her because she's a daughter of God. She let herself go. I don't know what it was, a combination of eating too much, or she was hit by the ugly stick. I don't know what it was, but I took her out a few times, and it was embarrassing to take her out because she wanted to hold arms, with me going into the restaurant. And sometimes, I mean, she'd always drop her napkins on the floor during the time we were at the restaurant. At times she'd fart. She would just fart, yeah. Anyway, she had a lot of problems, and I'll tell you about them sometime. But she had some real serious psychological problems where she ended up in a lockdown facility because of her problems, mental problems. And anyway, her mother, and I didn't realize that I knew her mother. I'd met her mother, when I dated her, her daughter in high school and different things. Anyway, so long story short, her father, this girl that ended up in a facility, her father was a doctor. And when he died, her mother inherited millions and millions and millions of dollars. Anyway, her mother contacted me out of the blue when I was dating this girl, and she says, we talked for a while on the phone, and she says, "What's your address, Ron?" And I says, and I gave her the address, and I said, what's going on? She says, "Oh, I just want to send you something." And so, anyway, she sent me a gift, a check. Moolah, baby. She sent me a check in the mail as a gift, just before tax time. And called her up, thanked her, of course. And I said, "Look," I says, "I don't want you to, give me this money because I'm dating." I'll just call this girl Deborah, for instance. I don't want you to give this money to me because I'm dating Deborah, her daughter. Oh no, that has nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with it. So anyway, long story short, I've always loved stained glass windows. I absolutely love the colors that are in stained glass windows, some of them. And I really love religious stained glass windows. So I saw a couple of windows on eBay that were, religious, but they were smaller windows, and I thought, I've seen big windows before in cathedrals and different things, and I thought, man, I would almost give anything to have one of those, just to look at it, have it in my home and look at it. So I contacted this guy on eBay that had these smaller windows, and got his phone number and called him. He lived in Pennsylvania, and asked him if he had any bigger windows that had a religious theme to them, any bigger windows that he hadn't put on eBay. And he said that he had a couple of them. And long story short, he was in the demolition business, and he used to buy these church buildings and cathedrals that were no longer in use or run down or whatever, and he'd buy the building. Of course, he had all salvage rights to the contents of it, and a lot of the cathedrals and church buildings had these magnificent 100-year-old plus stained glass windows in them, and a lot of them were huge. They're beautiful. So anyway, he said that through the process of him tearing down buildings, that he took two of the nicest religious stained glass windows for himself, and he's had them stored in his barn for 15 years because he was going to construct a home church. I don't know what a home church is. I guess it's a church on your property that you can go in and worship or light candles, say prayers, whatever. But he was going to construct a home church and never got around to it. But he says he had these two really huge, a couple of the best he's ever run across. And I asked him to send pictures of them, and asked him, we worked out a deal on them, and he sent them to me. And anyway, I got a email this morning from the guy that bought one of the windows from me, bought two windows. So this guy, I'll just say it was in Canada. Anyway, he bought one window, and he owns mortuaries. He owns a couple of mortuaries in Canada. And he bought one of the windows, went through the expense of buying the windows and getting it through customs and having carpenters and different people, put the window in the cathedral, in the chapel area in his mortuary. What he did is he put it in the chapel area where there's seating, where people, give talks about the person that died or whatever, before they take the casket to the cemetery. And he had this wall, and anyway, he had it installed in the middle of the wall where all the chairs were, and the chapel area. And he sent me a picture today of the almost finished product. And the subject matter was, first of all, the window was 9 feet tall and 5 feet wide. So it was a good sized window. It came out of a cathedral, like I said, in Pennsylvania. And it was a center themed window, huge one in the center, and it had different smaller stained glass windows going around it. And it was the windows I got was the one that was the centerpiece on each side of the cathedral, with all these smaller stained glass windows going around it. So they were special windows because they were the main windows in this cathedral. Anyway, now I lost my train of thought. Anyway, what was I talking about? So anyway, that's the size that they were. But he wanted to get this window, even though it was expensive to do everything, and put it in the chapel area. I was talking about the subject matter. Subject matter was Christ standing with his arms outstretched. He is risen. And he was standing in, there was Easter lilies, flowers, little flowers on the ground, and clouds in the background. I mean, it was magnificent. The colors were absolutely magnificent. It was masterfully done. uh, both stained glass and painted glass, and it was fabulous. It was absolutely fabulous. When I got them home, I put 17 lights behind each one of them, and so I could illuminate them at night in my house, and had to put them in a special area because most of my ceilings are like 8 feet or something, so I just couldn't do it. But I have cathedral ceilings in the front of my house, so I stood them up. There's space to set up a 9-foot window. But I had 17 lights behind each one of them to light them up at night. I'm not kidding you. I used to sit in the chair at night and just look at these windows. The other window was the Christ kneeling in the Garden of Gethsemane, and it was incredible. They were incredible. I thought, man, I wish I could show. I wish I wish I could have people experience this like I'm experiencing this. This is incredible. It makes you feel so close to God and so close to Jesus. To realize what He did for us. Just to realize that He did this for each of us. He did this for every single person in this world that has lived, are living, and yet will live. He did this for us. Anyway, so the feeling you get was just overwhelming. You know how it is. Maybe you don't, but I'm sure there's some people out there that know how you feel when you go into a cathedral and there's these magnificent religious windows with that are lit up, from the sunlight, and how magnificent they are. I had that in my living room. So anyway, he sent me three pictures today, showing me what it looked like, and it's magnificent, just magnificent. Of course, pictures can't do it justice, but his thinking was that when people are sitting there and people are talking about the loved one that has passed on, that has died, that they're sad. People in the audience are sad and mourning, and to be able to look up at this huge stained glass window and have Christ extending His hands out to people is a comfort to people. It's going to bless. I feel so blessed myself that He bought this window from me, and it's going to bless the lives of so many people that are mourning from the loss of a loved one, to look up and see Christ with His arms reached out to them. It's going to comfort them. It's going to give them hope. And I think it's wonderful that this owner of these mortuaries had the love and compassion in his heart to do this. I don't think he did it to show off, to make his mortuaries better than the other mortuaries. I think that he did it because he wanted to comfort the lives of people that sat in that room, that were sad and that were mourning. And that window will do just that. Anyway, 25 minutes is just about up. I'm sorry if I bored you today. I didn't mean to. Anyway, thank you, people, for the kind comments that you've left on my videos. I appreciate the people that leave comments, and there's a lot of nice people out there. And if I could say one thing to you today, it would be to reach out to the people that you love and let them know that you love them and that you appreciate them.